Hey, welcome back to Finger Lakes. Today I'm Jim Sinicropi alongside Rebecca Swift, and we're going to bring in Nate Sharman and Paul Russo here to talk sports with a big weekend of football ahead in the NFL. And I guess we'll kick things off, Nate, by just previewing some of these games from a betting perspective. We just heard some from about gambling addiction and the proliferation of gambling with young people, but nonetheless it is a legal thing, and I think that everybody likes to put a little wager on games of this magnitude. We have two on Saturday starting at 4:30, Jacksonville at Kansas City, followed by the Giants and the Eagles at 8:15, and then Sunday Cincinnati at Buffalo. That's the big one, at least for most of our viewers and listeners. And then at 6:30 p.m. Sunday night, Dallas and San Francisco, which has a lot of history in that matchup. So exciting.
Yeah, we had a really fun wildcard weekend for all of us, whether it be the betting perspective or just the football watching perspective. So looking to have a fun divisional round weekend too. So looking at that first game that you mentioned, right, Jags Chiefs.
Yeah.
In Kansas City, at Arrowhead, they're 8.5 point favorites as of right now. That one's an interesting one to me. Everything over a touchdown can be a little bit challenging, especially in the playoffs. We saw, all the games last week were close. You saw some, like in the 49er game, that ended up being, the 49ers and winning comfortably.
Blowout, yeah.
But they were, the Seahawks were up at halftime. So, it was a close game. San Francisco was able to pull out with some key defensive stops in the third quarter and then kind of pile on. But anything over a touchdown is challenging. That's going to be a tough game for me to bet. I try to avoid those spreads. And then also I'll be rooting so hard for Jacksonville. Just as a Bills fan, we'd rather play that, if we were to beat the Bengals, rather play that AFC Championship game at home than have to go to a neutral site to play Kansas City.
A warm weather team like Jacksonville.
Right.
But I agree. Any spread in the NFL that's like over a touchdown, you got to go with the underdog.
Right.
And I think it probably 7 times out of 10, it's going to cover. Or not going to cover, and you're going to.
Right. Especially in the playoffs, too. And then you have a Doug Peterson coach team in Jacksonville. They're going to fight to the very end.
Well, they were down 27-0
right.
last week against San Diego, ended up coming back and winning the game. And, Kansas City's weakness, I suppose, is their defense as compared to the other top-tier teams. So I expect a high-scoring game.
Right.
And my play on this one is to take the Jags and the points and the over, because I don't think Jacksonville covers unless it's a high-scoring game.
Right. And I think, not to get too off track here, but last week I found there's a decent strategy in waiting a little bit into live. So with that Jags-Chargers game, the Chargers went up 27-0. I grabbed the Jags plus 24.5 live.
No, that's
the easiest winner you really can have, right? I mean, end up winning the game, of course.
Didn't take them on the money line.
No, plus 2,000 money line. I probably should have went that way, but we'll take the winner. Always hard to be mad at a winner, but yeah, I think you're right. If it's. But the only thing I disagree with though is if the Jags do have a chance, they're gonna have to keep it. They're gonna have to try to limit that Mahomes offense. So the under can be an interesting play.
I don't think that's possible. So,
right. It's very,
the
next
path
to impossible.
Victory for Jacksonville is going to be, matching them.
I think if they get in the track meet,
offense they did in the second half against San Diego.
Right. But if they get in the track meet, I favor Kansas City.
I think Kansas City wins this game.
Right.
But by 8.5, I'm not sure. But another thing about waiting to go with the live betting is Kansas City comes down, scores right off the bat. Now all of a sudden you can pick up, if Jacksonville at plus 14.
One thing to be careful live betting too is if you have like a service like YouTube TV, got to remember you're a couple plays behind.
Oh yeah,
that's one thing to remember. I know you watch YouTube TV. I used to. I'm on cable now, but that's something to always be kind of cognizant of. Is that the line may have changed a lot and you're wondering why. Well, something probably big is gonna happen.
You can watch if you're watching the live line on say DraftKings website and you're watching the game live. You can almost predict something good or bad's going to happen based on how those odds change.
Right, for sure.
But moving on to the night game on Saturday, the Giants getting 7.5 at the Eagles. Over-unders at 48. And to me, out of all the games, this is the one I just am not sure of. The Eagles really handed it to the Giants earlier in the season. I think I'd be leaning towards the Eagles. Jalen Hurts coming back after what's now been a 4-week layoff might be a little rusty. And the Giants are obviously playing some great football. So it's a divisional matchup, too,
Right.
which adds a little wrinkle to it.
I love to see Coach Brian Dable, a Buffalo guy, grew up there, then ended up coaching for the Bills too. So it's just so much fun to watch him succeed. This Giants team is something that we're well connected to in the area, especially as well. So I always have a fun time rooting for the Giants. It's always been a team I like to root for. And they've been so good, and they're able to just kind of like, wait around almost. So they're always, you take a look at their season, they've been around, even games they've lost. They've been knocking at the door besides a couple games. So I think they'll do the same. The Eagles may win this game, but I think the Giants will be around. So I would take the points in that instance.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bad matchup for the Giants. I'm leaning towards the Eagles, which goes against my strategy of taking the 7+ point underdogs, usually in the NFL. But yeah, that's a tough one. I might even lay off it completely. I'm really not sure what's going to happen there. Paul, who you like in those Saturday games?
So I guess I'll actually start with the night game here. Trivia question, though, for you both here. See if you know.
Why A. Tittle?
A safe guess. But do you know who Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator at Alabama was?
Brian Dable.
Nate Sharman, you are correct.
That's a good guess. Did you know that, or just
I know I knew
where
that.
It was
Yeah.
going?
He literally
He's very good at Alabama.
Thought about it, paused, and then responded.
Under the Saban coaching tree.
Yes. So
you need to assume that maybe he might have a plan for a guy he knows so intimately.
And one of the logics I use in playoff time is the three method to me, which is this is their third time playing this year. Kind of brings some interesting stuff to the table here potentially.
Didn't work out the first 2 times, though. Good for the Giants, though, right?
Exactly.
Well,
But that gives me all the reason. That gives me all the reason, though, to kind of take the Giants here. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year for football.
Yeah.
So,
I don't buy that. I think if you beat them good 2 times, you can beat them good a third time. But again, that's the one that I'm not so confident on. So you like the Giants.
Yeah.
How about in the first game?
I like the Jaguars to cover, but I like Kansas City outright.
See, what I would most likely do there is I would tease the Jags up to like 10.5 and cheese the over down to like under 50, maybe 49, and put those 2 together and let her ride there.
Yeah, I don't
probably get a little better than even money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I think this game probably, if you're one of the prop guys, 2 player prop, I know that's where I kind of fall a lot of times lately, actually. This is probably the game, at least Saturday, where that really comes into play, in my opinion. Say a guy like Travis Etienne, running back for Jacksonville. Obviously, take your pick of Patrick Mahomes props bets to do. So I think that would be the game, at least Saturday, to do if you're a player prop guy or girl. That would probably be the one to do.
Okay, let's move ahead to Sunday and the big game at 3:00. Bengals-Bills. Not only does it have the aura of the teams from a couple weeks ago when the game was canceled, finally meeting again. Boy, Bills and Bengals fans sure were a lot of kumbaya, happy, one big happy family. In the week following that game, with the way everybody rallied around Damar Hamlin. But now they're playing for a shot to get to the AFC Championship game in Buffalo. The previous game was in Cincinnati, and boy, Cincinnati in that game looked like they were going to roll Buffalo. I don't know what would have happened if the game played out, but they certainly were off to a good start. They struggled a little bit against Baltimore. Actually,
they needed a defensive touchdown to win that game.
An amazing 99-yard, So, but I know Bills fans don't want to hear it, but I feel like the Bengals are going to win this game outright. And to my point, Miami came to town.
Yeah, they look good.
And Miami has lost. Granted, the Bills won the game in too close for comfort fashion against a team that's won like one of their last 6 games.
Right.
And so now you got Cincinnati coming in, and keep in mind Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl last year. They bring everybody back. The Bills tried to bolster in the offseason with the addition of Von Miller. He won't be on the field, so they're essentially bringing back the same team that couldn't get there last year, and a Buffalo team that hasn't looked really impressive over the past, in December, let's say, in January.
Right. Yeah. It's the offensive play calling for me. We mentioned a guy like Brian Dable not with Buffalo anymore, and you can really tell. Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey has had a little bit of his struggles here and there. I was at the game on Sunday, and I was just kind of perplexed with the amount that the Bills were throwing it deep. It seemed like Miami came with a lot of pressure, which was interesting to me. You have the receivers like Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, even a guy like Cole Beasley can pitch in a little bit too. That can win downfield matchups, especially Diggs. So I think that's an interesting point from the Bills, and I wouldn't expect them to go as deep in their offense, by throwing it deep, as deep, because the Bengals are going to come with pressure, including Sam Hubbard, who had that touchdown. So it's going to be a really intriguing matchup. 4.5 points just seems like a lot for me.
I saw it at 5 this morning.
Did you? Yeah. Wow.
So it's moving.
That's a lot of points to lay with the Bills
against the Cincinnati Bengals.
And that's almost I don't.
The Bengals got bad rap, or things changed with them all of a sudden, because in the beginning I think they started off 0-2.
Yeah, they've won a bunch.
They've
won a bunch, just like the Bills. They've won 6 or 7, or maybe even more than the Bills, I think. I have that as a coin flip game, really, to be honest.
And the fact that they were off last week against Baltimore, Cincinnati just didn't play their best game.
Right.
I don't know, over 48.5. I got the Bengals in this one, and to be honest with you, but when the playoffs brackets were set, I took the Bengals to win the Super Bowl at plus 850.
That's good odds.
So, and I felt that way going in, that it was going to be a Cincinnati San Francisco Super Bowl, harkening back to like a rematch of like maybe it was 1987-88 with Anderson versus Montana in the Super Bowl matchup before you guys were probably even born. But yeah, I'm rooting for the Bills, even though I've got my money on Cincinnati. But I think I like the Bengals on the money line.
I think we all know who
Oh, man.
we're rooting for, so.
Yeah, Rebecca rooting for the Bills. Sid will be rooting for your previous matchup, so we'll looking for the 49ers on Sunday. But
yeah, the 6:30 game.
Right.
Dallas plus
Sorry to skip
3.5 at San Francisco, and this is to me the lock of the week. You take San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna win by 500.
Right. I'd like to put my life savings on that.
Yeah.
But Dak did look really good on Sunday night.
Yeah,
or
we've
Monday
seen
night.
it before, right?
Granted, they played Tampa Bay, who was not that good as a team, but Dak seemed to be really good.
Well,
to me.
how hard is it when everybody is wide open in the secondary? I mean, it was unbelievable. Like, what was Tampa Bay doing in that game? Every touchdown to Schultz or CeeDee Lamb was like, there was nobody within 20 yards of these guys.
Let's just hope Brett Maher can make a kick.
Yeah, and that's another
Cowboys.
thing. What do you do if you're Dallas?
He had a great season, though, so I expect him to
but
rebound.
Still, now you go. There's the pressure ramps up. You're just coming off the game. It's like golf with the yips on putting.
Yep.
We've all been there. That would make me nervous. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause with this game is that Brock Purdy is the San Francisco quarterback. Now San Francisco. And so he obviously has never been in a position like this. It's his first playoff game. He's looked great. I just think that everybody around him is so talented, it makes his job easier. So just don't screw it up,
right?
Type of deal.
He's got a Madden offense with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he certainly loves George Kittle, tight end.
Yep.
So it just makes me a little, and I think that if there was a more name brand quarterback at the helm for San Francisco, this line would be 7.5, 8 like the other games. But there's not. But San Francisco hasn't had a good quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo to me is nothing special, and Trey Lance, and so this is the rare instance of an NFL team that I think that can win the Super Bowl without an elite quarterback.
I think Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance right now.
He certainly looks it. Yeah,
he struggled in that first half in his first playoff game last week, but he played lights out in the second half. He made some really good throws, and you could say that in that first half, if they were playing a better defense like the Cowboys or any other team, that game would have been a lot different. Purdy missed some throws pretty egregiously in that first half. Second half, he was a lot better on. So I expect him to come out more playing like he did in that first game and in that second half, and be able to kind of ride that wave, because he doesn't need to do, especially in a Kyle Shanahan offense, he doesn't need to be the focal point.
Right.
He needs to almost kind of game manage the game.
Don't make mistakes.
Don't make mistakes. Take care of the football and get it out to those playmakers that we talked about so much.
So the other deal, talk about Dak Prescott having such a great game last week. The San Francisco defense is ridiculous,
Yep.
and it's going to be a little more challenging for Dak this week too. So I got San Francisco. Probably won't bother with the over/under because I think it could be one of those games where it's like San Francisco 32, Dallas 6.
Right.
And in that case, it's going to stay under, even though the one team was able to put up a lot of points. Paul, what's your thoughts on the Sunday games?
Yeah. I'm kind of with you, Jim. I smoking Joe Burrow. I mean, he's a bad man, and
He's a winner. He finds a way.
I mean,
His whole career.
and look, the Bills. Nate. I said to Nate this morning a little bit, because me and him have had some spirited discussions about winning and what's a good win, what's not. And look, at the end of the day, the Bills are winning. They're winning ugly, admittedly, in certain spots. But I'm with Nate. I think it's a little bit of a coin flip, but I do lean Cincinnati there. But I mean, I took the 49ers at the start of the year. As long as they're still in it, I gotta still ride it. And that defense is beyond elite. You talk about what it builds, and they were literally the defense was the sole reason I picked them to win the Super Bowl at the start of the year. Let alone whoever really was under center. I mean,
What were the odds on that futures bet? You remember?
Oh, for Rebecca?
No, for your San Francisco bet.
Oh, I can't even remember.
Had to
I
be
think
the-
I just kind of like picked them on like fresh takes.
Oh,
I think
gotcha.
it was. But,
So
but yeah, I mean, I'm with you though. I think we're looking at the first non-elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl since Trent Dilfer with the Ravens back in 2000. So
Jim, who do you think is going to the Super Bowl? Sorry to interject, but
I think it's going to be Cincinnati and against San Francisco.
that's what I said yesterday.
Yeah, I think it'll be too close to call.
I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, so would you take Paul Cincinnati +5 or on the money line?
Both.
What is
I'd go money line. I think the values were the squeeze there for that. Obviously, the safe play would be taking the spread, but I'd go money line.
Of course, with all these games, especially ones that we expect to be close, like Cincinnati Buffalo, one bounce of the ball could make the difference. One tip pass that falls into someone's hands, they run it back for a touchdown, or it's just a lot of it will come down to that. So a lot of people are giving their opinion, saying this is what's going to happen. But when they get on the field, anything can happen in any of these games. But again, the one that I'm really kind of at a loss for is that Giants-Eagles game. The other one, I got a pretty strong feeling, I guess.
When is the next Giants game?
8:15 Saturday night.
You know what I'm gonna
cancel
be
your
doing.
Plans. Cancel your plans. And it's funny you mentioned that this is Bills and Giants country, but once you get to Syracuse, it's more Giants fans than Bills fans. That's about the line, I don't know why, but it seems like Syracuse and East is Giants country, and then Bills got the rest. But as of late, it's the Bills are making their way east, I guess, in terms of the fan penetration. But of course, the Bills and the Giants did meet in the Super Bowl, Rebecca,
What?
in 1990 in a game that
Hey.
Scott Norwood missed a last-second field goal. I was
Scotty
a
Norwood.
freshman at college that year, and I remember watching that game live.
Who won it?
Giants.
The Giants. The Bills have never won a Super Bowl.
The Bills went to 4 Super Bowls in a row in the 90s, Rebecca.
So it would be a
Did not win
huge
any
deal
of them.
if the Bills made it to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
Or no?
be a bigger deal if they won it, because as Nate
Right.
mentioned, there's a franchise that's never won a Super Bowl, and they certainly are contenders the past couple of years. So it would be highly disappointing even if they made it to the Super Bowl and lost, although it would be the natural progression of things, I suppose. But you figure you got another 10 years with Josh Allen, so
Right.
they should have plenty of opportunities. But
I think we can all agree, all of us, on one thing, that it would be a good game, right?
Giants,
No.
Bills.
Yeah.
I think if the Bills are
Good
looking
game.
to win the Super Bowl, that if they came up against the Giants, they'd be a lot more happier than if they were coming up against the Eagles or 49ers.
They'd be favored more, for
Yeah,
sure, against
right.
the Giants than they were against 49ers.
Right.
The Tom
Well-
Coughlin stuff, though, is so cool here in this area.
Yeah,
That's why you have so many Giants fans. Tom Coughlin winning 2 Super Bowls when he was with the Giants, and just so much family and roots in this area. So that's just one thing.
Waterloo native.
Remember.
Waterloo native. So.